We keep waiting to feel ready, but ready comes after we act. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, an international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of working with nearly 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to a bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. And I'm here to help you find the clarity to live in the place of the powerful clarity that allows you to do the one thing that you must do, and that's to act, to take action, to say it. Sometimes we're going to feel like we don't want to say it. Sometimes the world's going to tell us not to say it. Sometimes we just don't even totally know what to say. In all of those incidences, I only have one thing to say to you, and that's say it anyway. You see, we keep waiting for this magical ready thing. I don't even really know what ready really truly is. Not really. Because, by the time you're ready, you're late. I mean, let's just be really honest. Okay, it's like the age old saying that, if you want to be on time, you need to be 15 minutes early. And if you're on time, you're already late. It's kind of that kind of a concept because really, we equate this need to prepare, this time that we're readying ourselves with something magical that's going to then poof us into something cool. And I can tell you from both experience as well as all of history shows that it's when we take action that things happen. No matter how long you take preparing, no matter how long you do things to get ready, nothing happens until you move. My good friend Errol Abramson, Errol Abramson, Errol had an amazing saying, and I'll never forget it because he always said, nothing happens until a sale is made. And I remember the first time he said that, and I think I took it for granted the first time he said it. I think I was kind of nonchalant, like, yeah, that makes total sense. You can't do anything. But it keeps drilling down deeper and deeper into me. I want you to listen and hear that for a second. Nothing happens until a sale is made. I could rewrite that for you, a little bit if you want me to. Nothing happens until you take action. Okay? It's so important that we understand that we can't research our way into confidence. We can't study our way into clarity. We can't practice, drill, and rehearse our way into consistency. And we aren't connecting while we're spending our quiet time preparing. And I'm not in any way dissing preparation. Preparation is good. I do agree totally with the Abraham Lincoln quote. If you have 2 hours to cut down a tree, spend the first hour sharpening the axe, I think is how the quote went. It really boils down to the 80-20 rule. If you have 100% of this much time to do a thing, spend 80% of that time making sure you have a really sharp axe to do it. Okay? And so I'm not in any way disagreeing with that, but I want you to see that the sharpening the axe is action. The action involved in sharpening the axe. You may not be putting, axe to tree when you're sharpening the axe, but you're taking action. You're not studying and researching the best ways to cut down a tree. You're not shopping for a new, better axe. See what I'm saying? There's the action even in the sharpening. Okay. And all too often we get caught waiting to have the confidence, It's really about having the courage to jump and build the plane in flight. Start flapping our flailing arms and expect that we're going to sprout wings and fly. Because as long as we stand on the edge of the cliff and we study thermodynamics and we learn about updrafts and how to be able to soar and all those kind of things while we watch the eagles soar, and we're going nowhere. Because ultimately, what we have to do is jump. Even stretching out your wings when you're on the side of the cliff does you nothing. Okay? Have you ever flown a kite? This might be an easier analogy for you than, for example, flying, actually literally sprouting wings. When you fly a kite, okay, the first thing you got to do is make sure that the wind is blowing that direction, right? And then you kind of toss it up in the air. You can stand there with the kite in both hands and you can be we had this big windstorm yesterday. I mean, it wasn't really a storm, but it felt like it, even though it was beautifully nice. You could stand there and you can hold the kite, the sail, the whatever, and it doesn't fly. But when we put it up in the air and let it catch the wind, you see, you can't catch the wind until you jump. You can't make the move until you move. You can't turn the car unless it's in movement. And the truth is, you're not going to be confident in what you're doing until you do it. You're not really actually going to be confident in what you're doing until you fail a few times. I know that one's rough, because it's embarrassing to fail. I mean, let's be real, okay? It's rough on us. Nobody really wants to sign up for volunteer to fail. It isn't about how many times you fall down. It's about the fact that you got up one more time. Because when you have the courage to stand up that one more time, and when you do stand up, okay, let me be real here with you. Let me share stories from my own personal life. I've had a couple of times in my life over the course of the last 5 years. It's been a couple of years since this happened, and I'm so grateful for it. It's one of the reasons why, it was so apparent that I needed to lose the weight. I had a couple of times where I've literally collapsed, like just got to the point where my legs could no longer support me. And it's a little bit like melting, really, is the way that it feels, because you just go down, 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 down. And it gets to a point where, and you, as long as you can, you try to push yourself up. Your legs can't push up anymore. And you grab a hold of things and you try to push up with your arms until you get to the place where, you've held yourself up, pushed yourself up as much as you can with your arms, and you just can't do it anymore. And I'll never forget, this was a couple of years ago, when I was still back living in California. I had walked back, and we won't go into the whole story, but I had overdone it. I was walking back into the house. I had the particular apartment I lived in. My main door was actually at the back of the quote unquote house. I actually had a side door too, but it was even harder to get to. And I was having a hard time keeping myself standing up. And I fought my way to the windowsill that's, there's like a windowsill and then you go around the corner. And I pushed myself up a little bit. And then I kind of, with my hand on the wall, made it around. And I opened the door and I had one hand on the screen. It was a really solid metal screen door like they have in California houses. Had one hand here and the other hand on the door handle for the door itself. And I was pushing with everything I had because my legs were gone. I just couldn't. And I couldn't hold myself up with my arms anymore either. And right there in the doorway, I just began to, like I said, it feels like melting, really. Um, and I got down to a certain point where I was, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches from my knees being to the ground, and I just let myself go down the rest of the way. I was halfway in and halfway out of the door. And I remember laying there, and it was night and it was dark outside. And like you said, my door is in the back. And so, frankly, unless the landlady, who her office was the garage that was a detached building, and sometimes she would park over on the side and walk across the backyard. But unless she the next morning walked across, um, nobody would know. And I was having the debate in my mind whether she would find me first or whether the coyotes would find me and eat me. I mean, I lived in town, so I didn't really see that many coyotes actually in my yard, but this is where my mind went. Um, and I was literally at the point where I was done. I didn't figure I'd ever move again. Ironically, as I began to build strength, because you do, um, the first thing that was the most important to me, stupid as it was, and just so you know, um, I had gone outside and I hadn't taken my phone with me, which is very rare, even more rare since then. But I didn't have my phone with me, so it wasn't like I could even call for help. The phone was in the living room, which was up a couple of stairs. And when I finally could scooch a little bit, and that's really all I could do was scooch, the only thought that came to my mind was that I wanted to scooch in and get the screen door closed and locked. I guess the fear of the coyote was real enough. And it took at least an hour, probably closer to two. I slowly managed to gain enough strength that I could make it up. There's 2 steps from the dining room area that the back entry was up into the linoleum area that was the kitchen. And then, again, it took me quite a while to scooch across the kitchen floor and into the living room. I didn't have a huge apartment, but, I mean, it could have been a bazillion miles long at that point. Now, why do I tell you that story? Because that's the real example of being down. And really, at one point in my mind, and out. But the confidence that I was going to ever walk again, because I really wasn't sure that I ever was. The confidence that I was even going to live beyond that day, that came later. That came after all of that scooching, because I literally scooched on my back all the way across what ended up being the kitchen, and then, and then into the living room, laid in front of my chair for probably another half an hour, and then was able to hoist myself up into my chair partially, and was, laying sprawled out in my chair. See, the confidence didn't come from any of the preparation, from any of the stuff. The confidence came from the doing. And today, my confidence in walking, because I can tell you the fear of that collapse, it's still evident and it's clear, because it happened again another time since I've been here in Kansas. It was about 2 years ago. Might have even been 2.5 years ago now. Same kind of situation. And I mean, so when I began my weight loss journey and my health journey, and I started out where I could only make it to the end of the sidewalk, and even still to this day, part of why there's only a certain extent that I'll push myself to is because of the fear of that collapse. You see, Confidence didn't get me out to the end of the driveway. Courage did. Confidence didn't get me this morning around the block. Courage did. Our real world, we get knocked down. And sometimes that knockdown is enough to make us feel like we're completely taken out. And we question whether we'll ever get up again. And that's real. But the confidence doesn't come first. The courage does. We make that first step. We walk to the end of the driveway. We walk to the end of the block. We say the word that we're terrified of. We do the thing that we know is going to cost us everything. And then we can add consistency to that action. You see, as much as, and you've heard me talk about the 3 C's over and over again, clarity, consistency, connection. All of those are action verbs. None of those are passive. None of those is about planning, experimenting, any of those kind of things. They're about action. In order to get clear, first and foremost, you have to be in action. If you're not in movement, you'll never be clear. You can sit around and think about clarity for the rest of your life. You can use every ChatGPT prompt, mine or anybody else's. You can go through every course. I was actually talking to a friend of mine this morning about the fact that one of the problems that you will often find yourself in is you've taken so many classes that you're stuck. They call that analysis paralysis. See, the information doesn't make you move. The moving makes you move. I've said many times, if you want to be visible, you got to be someplace where you can be visible. If you want to be a speaker, you need to speak. And yeah, people are going to come against you. And you may even collapse and have times when you feel like you're never going to make it. Say it anyway. Someone is waiting on you to say that thing. Say it anyway. Say it today. Today is the only day we've got. Whatever you're called to do. There's a phrase, what's in your hand? And it means, what can you do? Not all of the what can't you do, what's coming against you, all those kind of things. But what is the one thing you could do today for the one person you're meant to help? Do it. Say it. Say it anyway, in spite of all of the reasons why that we all come up with not to say it. Say it anyway. Say it anyway. Say it today. I've created a 14-day sprint, the Say It Anyway sprint. It's evergreen, so as soon as you're ready, it is ready and waiting for you. If you come and join us in Visibility Amplifier, there is the ability for you to jump into that from there. And the Say It Anyway sprint isn't about hype. It isn't about some kind of cool slogan, even though I do want to get it on a t-shirt and mugs and all that kind of stuff. It is purely about giving you little micro wins to help you move forward. Small, daily, visible wins that build unshakable confidence and trust in yourself. Not because you got all this massive confidence and then you did it, but because you did it. You took the courage to take action and you built the confidence from your little success to little success to little success to little success. Confidence doesn't come first, courage does. And inside Visibility Amplifier community, we don't work with people who are waiting for permission. We help people who are ready to take action. Confidence follows action. It's not the other way around. Action is the key. Clarity is an action verb. Consistency is about action consistently. And connection, only is real if you're actually acting and connecting. Do it today. Come join us, visibilityamplifier.com. Check out the 14-day sprint. Let me know what I can do to help you. I hope that you really find yourself in a great place, that you truly are happy, safe, warm, and loved, that you already do feel the confidence, but more than that, you feel the confidence that you have the courage to step out today, to say it anyway. Say it today. Do it right now. Make that step. Be the you that you're meant to be, because somebody's waiting on you. And that confidence will come with the action that you take. Until we're together again next time, which is tomorrow, when we're going to talk about somebody suffering in your silence. I mentioned it today, didn't I? But we're going to dive deep into that tomorrow. And until then, I hope you have a great week.